Hello and welcome to Code Tutorials. Today we'll take a look at the Stacked Item Scroll widget, which is part of the Qi Addons for Elementor Premium Collection. This widget lets you create complex seeming visual displays that visitors can scroll through to reveal different images. This widget works best when used as a whole page element for your landing or home page. Here we have an example of what the Stacked Item Scroll widget can look like. This is an image preview of a demo homepage that belongs to the Qi theme. This is the design I'll be replicating in this tutorial. You can take a closer look at it by following the link under the image to that demo homepage. I'll open it in a minute, but first let's see the rest of this page. We have this breakdown or highlights section covering the key parts of this element. As you can see, the widget allows you to combine images and text, add links, adjust typography, colors, the look of your scroll node, and more. Alright, let's go and check out that link now. As I mentioned, this element works best when set across the entire page. This homepage demo shows just that. Moving the mouse makes the background text, which is actually one of the images in the stack, shift, and we also have a caption for the images. Another interesting design detail we get with this widget is that instead of the usual pagination or navigation, we have this signpost telling us whether we can scroll up or down from our current position on the page. You can see how it changes when I start scrolling down. At the same time, this has the images moving up as if I'm removing them one by one from the stack until they reveal this text at the bottom of the stack. You can use this space to share important information or a call to action with your visitors. Also, if we check back on the signpost or scroll node on the left, we can see the text now says scroll up, as we've reached the bottom of the page and the only direction to move in is up. Then, if we start scrolling back up, the images in our stack will start sliding back down one by one until we get the initial look back. So that's the design I'll be copying, and we'll see how all this gets made during the course of this video. And to start with our tutorial, let's head over to the back end. Here we need to add the widget we want to the page. I'll search for the Stacked Item Scroll. There it is. Now drag it over to the page. Before we dive into the widget's options, there are a few section settings I want to make. Since I plan to have the Stacked Item Scroll as a full page element, I need to set the content to full width. And to help me do that, I have the navigator open on the right. So I'll click on the section to open the section editing options. Then, under layout, I'll change the content width option from box to full width. Please note, for any of this to work, you need to be using a page template that allows full width content. That's something you need to set in the WordPress page settings. Okay, moving on with the options here. I'll change the column gap to no gap. Next, I'll open the Advanced tab so I can set 0 for the margins. And the same goes for the paddings. By doing all this, I've eliminated any blank space between my section and the page edges. And given that my section background now is pretty much the same as my widget background, I'm going to use these options to set the background color. So let's go to the Style tab. Then for background type, select Classic. And using the color option that appeared, I'll replace the default white background with a plain black one. Okay, there. That's all I wanted with the section editing options. Now I'll go back to the navigator and click on the Stacked Item Scroll element to access its options. And I can close the navigator after this since I won't need it anymore. Alright, looking at the widget options, the first thing we have is the text field. This is in the Content tab, so we're looking at customizing the element first. Now, the placeholder text we have in this field is... I need to scroll down so the item images move and reveal the text in question. There. This is where the content entered in the text field will appear. The text color is faint at the moment, but I'll be changing the style settings later on to make it more visible. For now, I want to replace the dummy text with my own. Give me a moment while I type in the new text. Okay, this change made the element reload, so I'm going to need to scroll down to the right part of the element to check on my text. Alright, it's there. And as I said, I'll be styling it later. This is in no way the final look. Now let's scroll up to the start, as the next thing I need to do is replace the dummy images. Each image is represented by an item we see here. And if I click on the first one, we can see it contains several options. The first, of course, is for replacing the image. Simply click to upload a new one. I'll use an image from my media library. select. Okay, here it is on the page. Once we replace the image, the next thing to do is change the item text. The text in question is the one that appears when you hover over the image, so it's something like a caption. I'll replace the default text with my own. Just a sec. There we go. Then we have the item link field, where we can add a URL that would connect this particular item image to any page you like. I'll set a hash symbol that will make it seem like I've added a proper link. After that, we have the item offset from center option. We can use it to adjust the space above or to the left of the image in order to change its position within the stack. For this, I'll switch to percentages, then click on the little chain icon to disconnect the fields. That way I can have different values for different sides. And now I'll set 25% for the top offset and leave the left side offset to 0. And this is the result. With that, my first item is customized, shows the proper text, looks clickable, and is placed exactly where I want it. Now I'm going to skip ahead while I create and customize additional items for the stack. Okay, at this point, most of my items are done. I only have one left. I wanted to show it to you specifically because while it's essentially the same as all the others, the graphic I'll be using might make you think it's something else. Let me show you what I mean. I'll click here to add a new item. Then for item image, I'll open the media library to select my visual. And this is the one I'll use. Select. Here it is. The text saying hello is actually a PNG image with transparent sections, so it seems like background text content, but it's not. It's simply another image in the stack. As with all the other items, I'll adjust the rest of the options here. So the item text will be hello, the link another hash symbol, and finally I'll use the offset to place this image slightly above all the others and set -100 for the top offset and 20 for the left offset. Don't forget, we're setting this for desktop displays, but all the widgets in the Qi Addons collection are coded to be responsive. So, while they will look great on other devices and screen sizes, you can always fine-tune using options like this one. Simply click on the device icon in the options below to open a menu where you can pick which device you want to make settings for, such as tablets or mobile phones, and then further adjust the offset for that device. Okay, I've finished customizing the items in my stack, which means we're done with the general section and we can move on to the button section next. The options here apply to the, let me scroll down to reveal it, just a sec. It's at the very bottom, so it's this button right here. And the options in the button section can help you adjust its layout, URL, size, and so on. However, my design doesn't include a button, so I'll be removing it. All you need to do is delete the button text, like so. But if you plan to keep the button for your design and need any help with using the options for it, you can check out the key button video tutorial I've linked for you here. Since all these button options don't play a role for me anymore, let's move on to the next section, the button icon. Here, if you kept your button, you could add an icon that would be placed next to the button text. Without a button, this won't do me much good, so let's see what's next. The Developer Tools section. It contains just one option. If you switch it to yes, then it will display the widget in the form of a WordPress shortcode, the light gray text you see on the page. You can copy this text for use elsewhere on your site. Alright, I'll switch this back to no. And under that, we have the Help section. It contains links to various helpful resources in case you need them. And that's all for the Content tab. Let's move on to the Style tab now and see what options we have in there. The first section is Text Style, and it will help us adjust the look of the text that appears at the bottom of the element. Let me scroll down so we can see it. Just a sec. This is it. To start with, we can change its HTML tag. You can pick anything from H1 to H6 or even the P tag. I'll keep the default setting. Then we can change the text color. You can set any shade you like, whether by using the slider or by inputting a hex code. I will set white for now, as it will make any changes easier to see. However, I plan to use a different option later to help me set a color gradient for my text. Okay, the next option we have is text typography. We can see it contains several different settings. There is the font family. I'll change mine. One moment while I find the font I want. Okay, No, misclick. I wanted one under this. Yes, that's it. After that, we have the size option. I'll set 65 pixels for mine. Then there's the weight option. We can use it to make the text lighter or bolder or anything in between. Simply pick whatever setting works for you. Next, there's the transform option. It can turn the text to uppercase or lowercase, capitalize it or leave it normal, which is the way we typed it in. Normal is also the default setting and I'll be keeping it for my text. Following that, we have the style option, which can change the text from normal, which is the default, to italic or oblique. Then the decoration option will let us add a line under, over, or through the title text if we want to. Finally, we have 3 options for adjusting different spacing aspects of the typography. There's line height, which I'm going to change. It's going to be 75 pixels. Alright. Underneath that, we have the letter spacing and word spacing options for adjusting the spaces between the individual letters or words in the text. And that's it for typography. I'll close this now. This brings us to the Enable Text Gradient option. This is the one I was referring to when I mentioned setting a gradient text color. When I switch the setting to yes, it reveals additional options. Using them, I can set several colors with gradient transitions for my text instead of a single color, which is accomplished with the text color option. The way it works is that you get these items, and each item represents a different color you can add. Since the widget will keep reloading anytime I change something, I will set all the colors and then we can check on the text. But first, let me clear the text color I set, as it was only a temporary measure. And I'll open the first item. For the color option here, I'll set a soft orange. I have the hex code for the precise shade I want. 1 second. There. Once I've picked that, I need to set the percent for the color stop. Broadly put, with this we can see how much coverage the color will have, i.e. the amount of text width that will be covered by this color. I'll set 48% for the first color. Then for the second item and the second color, I'm going to set a peachy pink shade. Okay. And I'll put 69 as the percent value. Please note, for the gradient transition to work properly, the percentages you set need to be in ascending order. Basically, each one needs to be larger than the previous one. Okay. Now I'm going to add a third color by clicking here to add a new item. Then we have the same steps. Pick the color you want. I have the hex code for a nice lilac shade, alright, and then set the percent value. Mine is going to be 84. Okay, the colors are set. Before we check on them, there's one more thing I want to do, and that is to set the gradient degree. This option lets you pick the angle at which the colors will meet. I'm going to replace the default 180 degrees with 155 to create a slightly slanted look. Alright, now let's check on the text. Give me a moment to scroll down to the end of the element. Okay, and here we are. The new colors are creating this gradient flow of pastel shades, giving my text content, and the element as a whole, an added point of interest. Okay, let's see what else we can style here. There's the text width option. It's pretty straightforward. You can set how wide the text will be. I'll use percentages as my unit of measure. It will help the text adjust more easily to different screen widths. And I'll set 76% for the value. Let's see what that looks like now. Just a moment while I scroll. There, the change made my text stretch out a bit more. And with this modified width, the text falls a bit differently in its lines now. Alright, the option after this is the text margin bottom, and it serves to adjust the space under the text. This option would have been more meaningful for me had I kept the button. In that case, I could have set more or less space between the text and the button. As it is, I don't need to make any changes to this option. My text looks good as is. Now for the next few sections. As they concern the button and I've removed mine, I can comfortably skip them. But if you need help styling your button or an explanation of the options you can expect for that, you can check out the Qi button tutorial, which I've linked in the description below. You'll find the explanation for all the button style options there, as well as the options you get in the button icon style, button inner border style, and button underline style. Those 4 sections are all dedicated to styling the button. But now we come to cursor style, where we have options for styling the text that follows our cursor when we hover over the items in the stack. Let me show you. I'll scroll up so we can see the full stack of images and the text that goes with each. Okay, now when I hover, this caption-like text that appears is what we can change using the cursor style options. To start with, we can change the text color. I'm going to set white for this, there, and immediately change the background color as well so my text will stay visible. I have a hex code I want to use for the background. Give me a moment to type it in. There. And now if we look at the page, we can see an almost inverse look compared to the default one. Alright, between these two color options, we have the text typography. Since we've already covered all the options included under typography, I won't go into them in detail. I'll simply make the changes I need and we'll carry on. Those changes include picking a new font. I'll use the same one I have for the note text at the bottom of the stack. There it is. Then I'll change the font size to 24 pixels. And that's all I want from these settings. I'll close them. If we look at the page, this is what my item text looks like now. After the typography, the next option in this section is the padding. It applies to when the text shows up, the padding determines the amount of space around it. And by adjusting it, you can, for all intents and purposes, adjust the size of the floating container for the text. I want to set slightly different values for different sides, so I'll start by disconnecting the fields. And then I can enter 10 pixels for the top side, 20 for the right, 10 for the bottom, and 20 for the left. If we check the page, we can see that I now have a much more compact container for my text. Alright, that's it for the cursor style section. The next one we have is scroll note style, and it lets us style that indicator on the side of our element that says whether you have room to keep scrolling up or down. We can't see it right now because it's black on black, so the first thing I'll do is change the note color. It's going to be white for my design, and the note disappears right away. Okay, after changing the color, we have an option for changing the note typography. Again, I won't go into any detail here since we covered the typography options earlier. I'll just change what I need, and that is the size, 18 pixels. Then I'll increase the weight by setting 500 medium, and finally I'll transform the note text to lowercase. Okay, those are the typography changes I needed. Following that, we have the left position option. By adjusting the value here, we can change the amount of space between the scroll note and the page edge. That's this gap here. I'll set 70 pixels for it. Okay, then we have the line height. It's very straightforward. You use it to set the length of the line that accompanies the scroll note. So if I start to move the slider, you can see how the line lengthens as the value increases. I'm going to clear this to get the default length back since I think it looks quite nice. Alright, next to that, we have the line thickness. It's for making the line lighter or bolder depending on our preference. I'll keep the default value here as well. And last but not least, we have the line space around option. With it, we can adjust the amount of space between the note text and the line. So you can separate them or bring them closer together. It's up to you. I'll clear the change to restore the default setting. And that's it for the style options. Since we're pretty much done, I'll hit update to save my work. We do have one options tab left, Advanced, but while it has several useful options for responsiveness, positioning, entrance animations, and more, it's something you get with all Elementor widgets and not unique to our stacked item scroll widget, so we won't be covering it in this tutorial. So my element is done, and now we can scroll through the stack to see everything I've done. All the aspects of my stacked item scroll have been customized and are in line with my planned design. The images I picked are there. The various bits of text are all styled the way I wanted them to be. And it works smoothly. Everything is as it should be. So, if you recall from the start of the video, this widget has a dedicated page where you can find the design I chose to mirror for this tutorial. You have it in image form on the page, but you can examine it up close by accessing the link under the image. Also, other than the image and link, this page provides us with an overview of this widget's capabilities, which you could also see as we worked on the stacked item scroll element in this video. Hopefully you found it useful. And to wrap up, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions you'd like to leave us after watching this tutorial, please drop us a line in the comment section below. Also, make sure to subscribe and be the first to learn about any new tutorials on our channel. Thank you for watching.